It's fitness racing, so it's fitness at the highest level.
You have to be good at running. You have to be good at running. You have to be good at strength.
Someone screaming no rep in the background.
Yo, I've said it a handful of times, and I'm going to keep on saying it. I make videos on the things that you guys ask me to make videos on. It's stupid for me to not listen to you guys. And I also try to connect the dots, so things tend to come my way. So when I see something over and over again, and then I see Hunter McIntyre this weekend, who's affiliated with the thing that I've been seeing over and over again, I'm going to make a video on it. And that is Hyrox racing. I am knee deep, I should say neck deep into the waters of the CrossFit world, and I don't know very much about Hyrox, but I spent about 45 minutes looking into it, and I knew a little bit about it beforehand, a little bit, a lot of it, who knows. But if you are watching this and you are into the Hyrox world, and it is almost as if I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, understand that I'm somebody who's looking at your sport, and if you want more people to come into your sport, maybe you take my opinion, say this is what they think of us, and we'll pick some things out, and we'll try to make us stuff better, and maybe that he doesn't understand this, and we'll kind of toss it aside. But if you disregard the entire thing, you're going to end up not being all that crazy good, because I just watched your championship video on the YouTube station, and it got like 11,000 views. The World Championship of Hyrox on this channel got 11,000 views, and that's not very good. So I'm trying to maybe help you guys get a little better, but I'm also going to make a video about one thing in particular. It's going to be further into the back end of this video. I'm going to start off with things that I think that are good about Hyrox racing. Number one being that it's the same thing every time. You've got 8 workouts that you do. And I don't know why you call them workouts. I like to just call them movements. The whole thing is a workout. So within this, you've got 8 things, 8 movements that you do. Number 1 is you do 1,000 meters on the skier. Number 2 is you do 50 meters on the sled. The guys use 385 on the sled. The females use 275 on the sled. The third thing that you do is a 50-meter sled pull with guys gets 275 and females at 165. Fourth thing you do is 80 meters of burpee broad jumps. Fifth thing you do is 1,000 meters on the rower. The sixth thing that you do is 200 meters of farmer's walk. Guys use 70s and the females use 53-pound kettlebells. The seventh thing that you do is a 100-meter sandbag walking lunge where the guys are using 66 pounds and the females using 45 pounds. It looks like a giant hot dog sitting on your neck. And the eighth thing that you do is 100 wall balls with the guys using 20 and the females using 14. And I wonder where you got that movement from. In between each of those 8 things that I just mentioned, you are doing a 1,000 meter run. Now it says in between each of those things, but I just watched the World Championships, and to me it looks like they started with a 1,000 meter run, and it also looks like they don't finish with it. It ends up being 8,000 meters of running, which is 5 total miles of running with all of that stuff that I just mentioned sandwiched in between 1,000 meter chunks. It's the same thing every single time. You know what you're going to expect. So one of the biggest criticisms I had of the 2022 CrossFit Games is I was watching their swim event. They're in the pool, and they're trying to accumulate calories on the skier. And at the end of the event, the announcer goes, Roman Krenikov gets 160 calories on the skier, and he's freaking out about it.
160 for Roman Krenikov!
And I go, wow, it's interesting you're freaking out about it because I just don't really understand if that's a lot or not. And it's because the first time they ever did the event, I've never done it. I'm knee deep again into the CrossFit world, and I don't know whether or not that's good. It's probably why the lifting events are so exciting because a lot of people know what it's like. You watch Guy Malheiro snatch 300 pounds, you go, wow, I could never do that. But you watch Roman Krenikov hit 160 calories on a skier against something that they have been doing for the first time, you go, I don't know if it's that much. But when you watch Hyrox, it's the same thing every time. So if you know they go under an hour, it appears as if that's pretty good. If they're approaching 55 minutes, it's near the world, or it is the world record for the males, that is. And when I look at that, it kind of seems as if this is the type of thing that could end up in the Olympics. It's got rules, it's got standards, and everyone's doing the same thing over and over and over again, and very much like a down and back in the pool, or they're playing basketball and it's at the level of the Olympics. The biggest difference between that and CrossFit is that you know what you have to expect, and it's something that James Fitzgerald and some committee of people were trying to do with CrossFit, is like make it, what is it, the Functional Fitness Association, the FFA, something like that, but make it linear where you're doing a handful of things the same time over and over and over again. And that is what Hyrox has going for it really well, is you know what's coming. And the other thing is it gives you something to train for, and I see that a lot with a Tough Mudder and Spartan racing, because people go, hey, I want to get ready to do a Tough Mudder. I just want to be in enough shape where I can do the thing with a whole bunch of buddies. I have a set date for it, and it's something that drives a whole lot of people. You want to get ready for a wedding, you want to get in shape, you want to fit into a suit, or you want to look good in your dress, and all of a sudden you have something that you're going to work for, and it's not just like you're wandering around aimlessly while you're trying to get in better shape. Like, what does that even mean to a whole lot of people? And in the case of Hyrox, it means that you want to be able to do this event. That's where I stopped looking at things that are going well for Hyrox. First off-the-cuff reaction is that's it. We're going to get into the bad stuff, and it starts off with one of the things that were also good is that it's the same thing every single time. And it's weird because I just told you that in CrossFit, Horman Kennekoff, oh, he got 160 calories. I go, is that even good? I don't know. And I'm about as well versed in CrossFit as you could get. But the variety and the spice to the workouts is also very cool. It brings more people. They speculate. Half of the shit that I talk about is speculating about what CrossFit workouts can be. Same thing with a whole bunch of other YouTube channels and a whole bunch of people out there. What do you think the open workouts are going to be? What do you think about this workout? What do you think about that workout? And in the terms of Hyrox, they lose out on all of that. So there's give and take to that point in particular. But when it comes to Hyrox, I think that it ends up being boring as hell, which is my second point. You watch people run around, freaking ski on the ski erg, which in one spot there's hammering away. They go, okay, that looks hard, but what does it really mean? It's not like they're moving in space. When you're watching a football game, there's stuff going around everywhere, and you can watch almost 20 different things at once and get something different out of each of those things. But when you're on the ski erg, you're like, okay, let's get back to that run that you've got next Hyrox racing. And then move on to the sled, and they're all kind of just like, burpee broad jumps. Okay, we're going to watch grown people do burpees. It's like, all right, whatever. And you get what I'm saying by this. It's kind of sort of boring to watch people do this for an hour where they run, and then they do the same thing over and over and over again. And it's even worse when the broadcast is as bad as it was. So I just watched the World Championships. It looks like it was done in May 14th in Vegas, and it looked like a worse quality thing of what I did at the CrossFit Games with the Sevon podcast and Matt Souza, Sevon behind the scenes, and a couple of other people. We were walking around interviewing some people, and I'm going to compare this to CrossFit. I'm going to give CrossFit major props because everyone likes to say that the CrossFit broadcast sucks, but if you think that you have any ground to stand upon with this in a sport that's relatively new, CrossFit's been around, yes, maybe twice as long as Hyrox, but in that amount of time, they've put something out where it's 4K vision, and that you can see a whole lot of people. And it actually seemed as if the people doing the broadcast for Hyrox knew what they were talking about. They were well informed, so I can't talk down upon that. But the visuals were absolute dog shit. And I told you the thing only got 11,000 views. Would they have gotten more views if it was better looking? Maybe, probably, I don't know. But you look at the comment section, everyone's like, just be happy that there is something. And it looks almost identical to the stuff that you'll see at the level of CrossFit, which is they'll be bitching about the broadcast. Just be happy that you have something. It's like, what the fuck do you think that you want? Do you think you could do better? Do you actually want to see what bad looks like? Because if you go watch the Hyrox freaking broadcast, that's what bad looks like. Quit complaining about Chase Ingram and the fucking people commentating. Quit complaining about not being able to see your favorite athlete. Because if you want to watch something bad, Hyrox just shows Hunter McIntyre the whole time, which is completely understandable because he won the event that I watched and he blew everyone out of the water. But the thing that happens is you'll see him and then it freezes on him. And the people keep talking in the background, but the internet connection was such shit and the broadcast was so bad that you don't know what's going on. And then it brings you to the judging. So the final event of the Hyrox World Championship was 100 wall balls, and you can see Hunter McIntyre is going as low as possible, which is awesome because he ended up winning the event. It's one of the questions everyone always asks me is like, hey, have you ever seen Rich Froning do bad stuff? It's like, no, which is why he's so cool because he always does the reps as good as he freaking can, and he was still the best when he was doing it individual, and he was the best as a team. So we see that with Hunter McIntyre at this race. He wins the race, and he is having great looking wall ball repetitions. The whole rest of the workout doesn't look like there's really much where the judging would come into effect, but right next to him there's an individual in yellow shorts where he does 100 wall balls which are not to depth, and in a race where you do the same thing every freaking time and every second is going to end up counting. If you do 100 wall ball repetitions that aren't to depth, you probably take off a half a second per rep, and over the course of 100 repetitions it might take off 10 seconds. So at a certain point in time it's going to make a difference. It didn't here, but it could in the future. And if again we want to compare this to CrossFit, everyone wants to give CrossFit such a hard time for their no repetitions in certain things.
Someone screaming no rep in the background. Someone has a friend in a different lane and they want that official on it.
And those are all just things when it has to do with the Open, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the games. But like I said, this was only one movement. It was wall balls at this event. I remember I spoke about Wodapalooza and how they were running these judges into the fucking ground at Wodapalooza this past year. They were working the whole fucking day and they had to do every freaking division. You get confused what the workouts are. They changed the workouts on the fly because of the weather and the rain. And I remember I was competing, I asked the judge a question and the judge just said, "You were briefed." I'm like, I don't know what we're supposed to do. You're the judge. judge. Like, you were briefed. It's like, yeah, but we were briefed in 2 seconds and they didn't have a megaphone and the person was trying to yell at everybody. It's like, I don't know. Where do we do our burpees? Like, just point to the line where we're supposed to do our line-facing burpees. And the judge goes, you were briefed. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that I'm going to have to bite the bullet and I'm going to slow down a little bit and figure out where everyone else is doing their burpees because you just won't point to a fucking line for me. And it was frustrating then, but you understand the frustration. At this Hyrox event where all the judges had to do was do the wall balls, all they had to do was whether or not they were getting all the way to depth on a squat and a wall ball, and the judge wasn't doing it, and all of a sudden it gives you a new appreciation for the amount of things that judges can look for at the level of CrossFit, albeit while they're not being paid. And I'll always reflect on that situation, and I'll wonder, did that judge even know what the standards were? Because that judge had probably just worked a 14-hour day and had to do the adaptive division and had to do the scale division, the RX, and now the elite team division after having done the elite individual division. And I thought there was a rather high likelihood they didn't even know the answer to the question I was asking, which is why they just kept on saying you were briefed. And I wasn't really mad about it, but I just had to slow down. We weren't going to win the event anyway, but I would be angry if I were at the Hyrox Championship trying to watch these wall ball events, watching one individual in particular not getting below parallel, and all the judges ever have to do is watch the exact same thing over and over and over again. So remember, it was something that was good for the sport of Hyrox, but it's also bad when the judges can't fucking figure out how to do a wall ball the right way. And then the final thing is that it's only going to attract a certain type of person. So I've always said in certain things that I think Hunter McIntyre is indeed one of the fittest people on earth, and that's because his ability to run is so much better than everybody else's. We talk about the Z-score pretty consistently, and if you were to go do a 1 mile run, he would be able to do it close to 4 minutes because he is a very, very good runner. The next closest CrossFit person might be able to break 5. We know Adam Klink could do it. They'd be low 5s, and Hunter would be able to beat them by about 15 to 20%, and that's a lot. That would be like if the best snatch of the CrossFit Games were 300 pounds, and there was a couple of people right there, and then there was someone out there who did a 360 snatch. That's about how much better Hunter is at running than everybody in the CrossFit world. But I do believe that there were other CrossFitters who competed in this Hyrox event and were completely destroyed by Hunter because there is 5 miles of running, and that is the meat and potatoes of the Hyrox race. 2017, hey Andrew, you want to go do a Hyrox race? It's this new thing. I look at it and I go, I don't want to run 5 miles. In a CrossFit workout where there is running, usually if it's either just a run, there's going to be something over somewhere else where it's going to offset it. Gymnastics, weightlifting, and the whole thing balances off. And everyone who's the best at everything rises to the top. You want to get really good at everything, get better at running. Yes, I understand. But if you want to be really good at Hyrox, it's a must because you're not going to catch up on the skier. You're not going to catch up on the rower. You're not going to catch up on the sled push or the burpee broad jumps or really anything, especially the wall balls because they aren't holding them to a standard. And it's right at the end. It's not like it's the hardest thing ever. If you're a good runner, it's not far-fetched to be very good at wall balls. But if you are a very good runner, it might be far-fetched to say, hey, go deadlift 500 pounds. It might be far-fetched to say, hey, go back squat 400 pounds or bench press 300 pounds. And the coolest thing about all of this is that Hunter McIntyre is and was the champion of all of this stuff. He could have probably had also done all of the things that I just mentioned, the 5, 4, 3, deadlift, back squat, bench press of those things. But me as a person has no intention of wanting to do it because of the amount of running. And Andrew, that's a personal problem. Yeah, sure, it's a personal problem. I don't like fucking running that much. I think everybody that does CrossFit can kind of vibe with me on that a little bit. We don't want to run all that fucking much. But Hyrox is really going to attract a certain kind of person. People who are maybe former cross-country runners, who are a little bit stronger, who can manage the sled, who can manage the rower and the ski. They might have like 10% of the exposure as a whole lot of other people, but because they are so fucking good at running, it's not going to matter. It doesn't matter how well they can ski or row or whatever, because they'll be able to make it up over the course of that 5 miles of running. So it was interesting because I saw that there's going to be something featured on ESPN about a documentary involving the Hyrox race.
It's fitness racing, so it's fitness at the highest level, but with a competitive bent to it.
You have to be good at running. 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 Be good at running. Be good at running. You have to be good at running. You have to be good at strength. And you have to find a way to blend the two together.
Yeah, I'm gonna smash the Germans.
To be honest, I don't really think it could be anything all that awesome. I only know of one individual who does Hyrox racing. His name is Hunter McIntyre. I've brought him up a handful of times in this video. I met him last weekend. He's cool, and the only reason I know him is because he also participated in CrossFit. The sport is new, the sport is young. It'll be interesting to see where it ends up going. Who knows? If you ask me, I don't think it's going to go all that far just because of the running.
You have to be good at running.
But I did bring up that it might be at the Olympics, which would make it bigger than CrossFit. I don't know. Is curling bigger than CrossFit because it's at the Olympics? I don't know. What do you guys think about Hyrox? The biggest thing that I take away is that
you have to be good at running.
Awfully odd that they would take movements like the wall ball and say, we're going to make the ultimate race, because CrossFit is exercise racing, in my opinion. I think it was a couple of guys who tried to ride the CrossFit hype, but they didn't like a whole bunch of the movements, snatches, chest to bar pull-ups, kipping, stuff like that, and made their own thing that they thought was cool, which is okay. But it would be almost as if a power lifter did the same thing and said, we're going to do the total, the bench press, back squat, deadlift, and we're going to include some running.
You have to be good at running.
Not very much running, because we don't like to run, but we want to make it the test of fitness, and we're going to prioritize weightlifting, where Hyrox prioritizes running.
You have to be good at running.
And then we're going to do some other stuff, and now all of a sudden, we are the fittest people on earth. It's like, I don't really think so. I think CrossFit has that one pretty hammered in. What do you think? Andrew Hiller out.